Welcome to Redline Global, home to 500 million people, representing the world's oldest civilizations. It is the birthplace of three of the world's most influential religions, whose 5 billion believers span all continents. It holds half of the world's energy reserves. Nearly 70% of global trade passes through or around its geography. Indeed, the Middle East and its borders define our future. Pakistan has acquired a new strategic centrality to the Middle Eastern affairs. It's a member of President Trump's Board of Peace. It is forming new alignments with Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. It has entered into a formal defense agreement with Saudi Arabia, one of its kind. And most recently, it is the centerpiece of efforts to mediate the conflict involving Iran, the Gulf states, and the US. These are unmistakable signs that the Middle East is changing. But what exactly is this new Middle East? In tonight's special edition of Redline Global, we will attempt to answer this critical question. As Donald Trump leaves for Beijing and tensions around the Strait of Hormuz stand on the verge of re-eruption, finding answer to this question has become absolutely vital. I have a great panel in my studio, but before I introduce my panelists, let me take you to Beirut, where my colleague, Leticia Castro, is there ready with the material focused on the Middle East.
Thank you, Talat, for the welcome. And of course, welcome to your audience to this episode 2 of our special transmission with Redline Global. I'm Leticia Castro with South Era Network, and we want to talk about this. For decades, the region followed a delicate balance. Iran leaned on its network of militias and allies, while Israel relied on military deterrence. Gulf nations bet on economic growth and stability, while the U.S. sat at the center, holding the system together. But the wars of 2025 and this year, 2026, are changing that entire balance. So what started in Gaza and Lebanon quickly grew into a much bigger regional crisis, one that pulled in states, militias, global power, shipping routes, energy markets, and millions of people far beyond the Middle East itself. So to understand how we got here, you need to understand the sequence of events that brought the world to this point. The United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed. Iran retaliated immediately and fired missiles and drones across the entire region. Within 24 hours, 6 American soldiers were dead from an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait. Iran then made its most devastating move, at least that's what many say, closing the Strait of Hormuz, and sending oil prices into free fall across global markets. Back in Tehran, a new supreme leader took power, the son of the man killed in those opening strikes. He showed no sign of backing down. Both sides eventually agreed to a ceasefire, a pause, but Washington almost immediately launched a naval blockade of Iranian ports, keeping the pressure, and now that ceasefire is hanging by a thread. President Donald Trump says it's on massive live support. Those are his words as of now. So what does this new Middle East actually look like? Let's take a look at an explainer that I recorded earlier today. For years, the Middle East operated under a kind of unwritten rulebook. Iran built its network of allies, Israel relied on deterrence, the Gulf states balanced security with business, and the United States remained the region's ultimate power broker. But the wars of 2025 and 2026 changed that entire equation. What had long been simmering in Gaza and southern Lebanon finally boiled over into something much bigger, a regional power struggle that reached from the Mediterranean to the Gulf. And by the time Iran and Israel were exchanging direct strikes, it was clear that the old security structure of the Middle East was beginning to crack. This wasn't just one war, it was multiple conflicts colliding at the same time. In Gaza, the humanitarian crisis deepened as the war between Israel and Hamas continued to escalate. In Lebanon, Hezbollah and Israel traded fire across the border, pushing the region to the edge of a wider war. Syria, a country already shattered by more than a decade of conflict, once again became a battleground for regional powers, militias, and foreign armies. And then came the biggest shift of all. Iran and Israel moved out of the shadows and into direct confrontation. For years, their conflict had mostly been indirect. Cyber attacks, assassinations, proxy groups, secret operations. These wars brought the region into a new era, one where missiles, drones, and airstrikes were no longer happening through middlemen. And that changed everything. The United States found itself pulled back into the center of the region, militarily and diplomatically. Washington worked to prevent a full regional collapse while also trying to protect shipping routes, energy flows, and its allies in the Gulf. Meanwhile, Israel shifted from fighting on single fronts to managing threats across multiple borders at once. The Arabian Gulf states, particularly the UAE and Saudi Arabia, faced their own dilemma. How do you maintain business ties, economic growth, and regional stability while missiles and drones move across the same region that your economy is depending on? And then there was Iran, isolated by sanctions, pressured by conflict, but still able to project power through its regional networks and strategic geography. But one of the biggest changes wasn't just about states, it was about who else was gaining power. For years, people talked about the Middle East through the language of countries, but these wars showed just how influential non-state actors have become. Hezbollah in Lebanon remained a central player, firing across the border with Israel while also trying to maintain its position inside a collapsing Lebanese economy. The Houthis in Yemen disrupted global shipping routes in the Red Sea, turning a local conflict into an international trade crisis. Iraq's Iran-aligned militias targeted U.S. assets and military bases. Hamas, despite massive losses in Gaza, continued to shape the regional security landscape. And in Syria, different armed groups, foreign powers, and militias continued operating on the same battlefields years after the war was supposed to have peaked. The result? The lines between war, politics, and geography started to blur. Suddenly, a drone fired by a non-state group could impact oil prices at a global level. An attack in the Red Sea could delay trade heading to South Asia. A missile fired in southern Lebanon could shake markets thousands of kilometers away. And that's why these wars matter far beyond the Middle East, because South Asia is deeply connected to this region through energy, trade, remittances, and migration. Millions of South Asians live and work across the Gulf countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. They depend on shipping routes that run through the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. So when the Middle East shifts, South Asia feels it too. Higher oil prices, pressure on trade, uncertainty for diaspora communities, new diplomatic balancing acts between the US, Iran, Israel, China, and the Gulf. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from the wars of 2025 and 2026. The old Middle East, the one built around clear alliances, strong states, and American security guarantees, is fading. What's replacing it is more fragmented, more connected, and far less predictable. The battlefields may be in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, or the Gulf, but the consequences now reach far beyond them. And as the region enters its next chapter, the question may no longer just be who controls the Middle East, but whether anyone can even manage the chaos.